Why is silver a bad investment? Well, recently I did a video about the attempted short squeeze in silver as the Gamestop, Reddit, Robinhooders moved from Gamestop into silver because there was some posts about a massive short position in silver that they could squeeze, similar to what they attempted but failed to do with GameStop, where there actually was a large short position by hedge funds shorting a stock which has a questionable future. Silver doesn't have a large short position in it. That is a myth of gold bugs. Gold bugs are investors that always think gold and silver are the best investments and that the world is coming to an end. The Dow's real price is 3,000, and central banks have created an epic bubble that's going to come crashing down, and only gold and silver are the real assets. They've been saying this for decades. I used to work at a gold fund decades ago. I can talk about this all day, but let's get right to the silver myth. There is no huge short position in silver. It is not being manipulated down by banks, dark forces, global organizations of wealthy people, and various other conspiracy theories. Central banks were always accused of keeping gold and silver prices low through selling, but now most central banks buy gold. They're not net sellers, and that myth has kind of fallen away, and now it's supposed to be JP Morgan and some other elements that you'll see screenshots online of huge short positions on the futures exchanges of silver, but those are actually short positions because those same banks have long positions in silver in other markets like Europe, and they're just to hedge those positions out. It's not some scheme to manipulate the price lower. These same gold and silver bugs think silver should be $100 an ounce or more because it's being helped down. Now, there's so much wrong with this, besides the fact that there is no huge short position. We would all know about it. It wouldn't be a huge secret. Silver is mined like Bitcoin in some ways. Mines can produce more silver if the price goes higher. There's, just like when oil prices shot up to over $100, more production eventually takes a few years, comes online, drives the price back down. Now, you can't, magically make millions of ounces just appear the next day, but there will always be more production if the price goes high. Also, silver and gold are generally never thrown away or consumed. They were consumed to some extent with film when that was a big business, but it can be recycled, so to say. When gold got very expensive about 10 years ago, you saw people selling jewelry, selling everything. So there's an expression that all gold sales are future supply because it's always hoarded and always resold, and that's why it has limitations. Now, silver and gold can match inflation over long periods of time, but matching inflation is not a great investment return. And almost every asset over time beats inflation, whether it's real estate, stocks. There's bonds that adjust for inflation. You can buy a savings bond direct from the US government that adjusts for inflation. So matching inflation with a degree of safety is not a problem. All commodities, in theory, as a group, will match inflation over time. Not that well, but fairly well. The problem with silver and gold is investors think it's magical because it used to be money at one point. There were silver certificates, gold-backed currency. You used to be able to exchange it. That's long ago been removed. It was a terrible system that led to panics, crashes, deflation, the Great Depression. Central banks need control. I've done a video about why Bitcoin's bad for this very reason. Anyway, there's no reason why silver or gold would be better than platinum, let's say, other than this magical historical situation where they were money in old-fashioned economies, including ours. Now, there's no massive short position. The thing that goes on is that investors use silver and gold to anticipate inflation, often incorrectly. So if there's some action in the central bank, or if inflation ticks up 0.5%, you'll see silver or gold take off because investors think, well, we're going to get ahead of the rampant inflation, and we'll bid up silver or gold 30, 40, 50%. Unless inflation becomes 30 or 40, 50%, then this is going to come crashing down as it has all the time in the past. In fact, if you were concerned about inflation, you'd be better off in a commodity that didn't run up 30 or 40% in anticipation of future inflation, because all commodities are going to more or less mimic inflation over time as a group. Commodities are a bad investment too, but I'm just trying to counter how silver and gold can even be worse, because what very often happens is investors get into silver and gold after it runs up significantly in anticipation of this magical future inflation that never seems to come. Silver can be manipulated, but it typically is manipulated on the way up. The last time there was real manipulation in the silver market was 1979, I believe, when the Hunt brothers tried to corner the market in silver and did a fairly good job driving the price up to around $150, adjusting for inflation. Obviously today, the price is much lower. It's been a terrible investment for people that came into silver at those prices. The Hunt brothers were investigated and had to pay fines, got in trouble by the government, proving that the government does go after big players who try to manipulate markets. But in conclusion, silver is a terrible long-term investment. At best, it's going to match inflation. There is no massive short position that can be squeezed by investors. There's only, are you buying in at too high a price because people think there's going to be inflation? There are many ways to beat inflation, and they're all better than silver and gold in the long run. And there is no manipulation of silver that keeps it artificially low. It's always going to be somewhere roughly around mining costs or a little higher, because it's just a commodity like everything else that's a commodity, and you can't think it's magically better than copper. I mean, at copper and pennies, we're not hoarding that for magical inflation either. Anyway, there'll be more stories here if you follow this channel about bad, good investments, bubbles, scams, etc. Thank you.